Imagine you are walking through a forest. It's the middle of winter, so all the tree branches are bare, and you are trying not to lose your footing on the icy path. You look off into the trees, which are thinner near the trail, and you see a single deer, a doe. Something about this animal seems off. She looks underweight and confused. The doe is walking stiffly in circles, drooling, and does not react as you take a step closer to look. Unfortunately, this particular deer will be dead in a matter of weeks, slowly and painfully falling prey to a disease with no cure and no chance of survival.
Chronic wasting disease. This horrifying condition is a member of the prion family of diseases, which includes bovine spongiform encephalopathy, also known as mad cow disease, scrapie in sheep, and Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease in humans.
These diseases can occur if a misfolded version of a protein called a prion ends up in the central nervous system. The warped protein is more stable than the healthy configuration, so normal prions in the brain begin to misfold too.
The immune system cannot defend itself against the rapidly multiplying defects, because the prion is not alive like a microorganism. It is a protein, and the cells treat it like a normal building block. This has disastrous results.
The chain reaction will cause cell death in the brain, and under the microscope, a post-mortem sample from the brain of a prion disease fatality will be full of small holes, like a sponge.
Contagious prion diseases often have very long incubation periods, meaning it is often years between exposure and first symptoms. The prions themselves are incredibly resistant to degradation, and will persist even in temperatures raised far beyond boiling point. In other words, they are difficult to destroy compared to viruses and bacteria.
Chronic wasting disease was first identified in 1967 in Colorado and Wyoming. It has spread to over 32 of the United States, 4 Canadian provinces, and parts of South Korea. It affects the cervid family, which includes deer, elk, and moose. Up to 10% of deer populations in places with a known CWD problem may test positive. In hot spots in places where the disease is well established, this number might rise up to 30%. There have been cases in captive populations where up to 90% of a herd tested positive. If farm deer test positive, their meat should not be sold and the herd will need to be quarantined and significantly culled.
Chronic wasting disease is thought to spread orally through the saliva and excrement of infected cervids. If the prion contaminates soil, it might remain there for years.
Browsing and nibbling on branches can also transmit the disease. Therefore, when population density is highest, such as during breeding season, the likelihood of a deer contracting CWD increases significantly. In many areas with the chronic wasting disease problem, including the Twin Cities metro area, it is prohibited to leave food or attractants for deer, as this can artificially concentrate the population and spread CWD. If a moose, deer, or elk contracts chronic wasting disease, it may be 2 to 3 years until they display symptoms. The motor coordination will deteriorate, leading to confusion, poor balance, lethargy, spastic movements, strange posturing, and eventually the inability to stand. The affected cervid experience increased salivation, agitation, and difficulty swallowing.
Quite a few deer will die indirectly from the disease, as they may become less fearful and reactive to traffic and could get hit by a car, or develop aspiration pneumonia from the salivation and swallowing related symptoms.
If you hit a deer with a car, you can contact your local Department of Natural Resources or a similar wildlife authority to have the deer tested for chronic wasting disease. Doing this will increase the amount of data available to organizations committed to the study and containment of chronic wasting disease.
Deer killed by hunters should also be tested, especially if they live in an area where chronic wasting disease is prevalent. It is currently unknown whether chronic wasting disease can infect humans. There are a couple of suspected cases, and conflicting scientific studies on macaque monkeys and bioengineered mice, but so far there are no confirmed human cases. Considering the ability of a prion disease to spread from cattle to humans, consumption of infected animals should be avoided. Scientists are closely monitoring reports of prion diseases in both humans and animals, and hope to contain the spread of chronic wasting disease before it has the chance to cross the species barrier. There might be nothing to worry about, but then again, this is a disease with no cure and a 100% mortality rate.
One organization involved in understanding chronic wasting disease is the Minnesota Center for Prion Research and Outreach. They have been busy with a special project to further awareness of CWD, a video game. Yes, you heard me. Cofactor is a text-based role-playing game developed by a small team from the University of Minnesota. This game is still in the testing phase, but soon players will be able to experiment with different choose-your-own-adventure scenarios and learn about chronic wasting disease and what can be done about it. When that happens, you can go to cofactor.game to play for free.
Right now, that link is open to provide information about the game and receive funds, so if you'd like to help support them, you can donate at cofactor.game today. I will link my website and my sources for this video in the description. Thank you for watching. Bye.